I've tried so many ways of getting Lego sorted over the years, and I haven't been happy with a single one until now. This is Brickfinity, and in this video, I'm going to help you get sorted. Welcome to the Brickyard. Everyone has a different way that they sort and store their Lego. I've done many myself. I've done bins and tackle boxes, which I always find very annoying because you have to remove lids or replace lids, or you have to stack them up, and if you want to access an element that's at the bottom of the pile, you're ending up removing bins and replacing them. It's just a hassle. And I've done acro mills, I've done small part storage. Those are great, you can store a lot more unique elements, but I always felt that they were a very inefficient use of wall space. I always felt you could do more. And that's why I've settled on what you see behind me, which is drawers. Drawers are great for this purpose. I use the Ikea ALEX. They are what I would say is like the silver standard for what is Lego storage nowadays. They're pretty cheap, they look really good, you can find an Ikea pretty much anywhere you want. One benefit that I found that I don't think a lot of people talk about is when you're going to find parts and you're looking in a drawer of parts, it's actually kind of inspiring because you might find a part that you're not thinking about, or you might see that you have a part in a specific color that you can use in a mock, and I've always found that really nice to add to the build process myself. But the Ikea ALEX is not without its set of downsides. One, the drawers do not open all the way. This is the most frustrating part of using these. The drawers don't extend all the way. So you lose about the latter third of the storage that you could be using, unless you hack them, which I have done myself. That doesn't come without its set of downsides. It reduces, I would say, the structural integrity of the drawers. You have to be a lot more careful in using them. I think that's worth it, but that's kind of up to you. The second thing, and what I set out to solve, is that there isn't a great storage solution to use within the drawers. So Ikea sells a really cheap range of bins that fit into the drawers pretty well, but you lose a lot of space because of how those bins are tapered, and just really felt not very efficient. And that is why I created Brickfinity. Now, I can't really claim that I made Brickfinity. It is heavily based off of the Gridfinity system, which was created by Zach Friedman, and that's based off of work from Alex Chappelle, so lots of credit to those two makers. But Brickfinity is different. If you use Gridfinity in the Ikea ALEX drawers, you lose about 5% of the available space, which I was never really that happy with. And Brickfinity uses a 60mm grid, so it actually occupies the entirety of the Ikea ALEX drawer. It's 10 units wide, it's 7 units deep, it'll take up the entire space and maximize the efficiency of using these drawers. So let's get into the components of Brickfinity and how it all works. This is a Brickfinity grid. This is really what allows you to move bins around and kind of creates a flexible and modular system. So you'll place these into your Ikea ALEX, and those will just sit there in the bottom as a base. Then you get into the bins themselves. So this is just a simple 1x1 bin. Nothing really too special about it. It just holds parts. A couple things, it's got a spot at the top for a label. I don't really use the labels that often, but you certainly could. I also use this as just a handy way to pull the bins out of a drawer. And it's got a little bit of a lip on the inside of it. So you can kind of see that there's a curved lip to allow you to grab parts a little bit more easily. These bins just sit on top of the bin, or they sit on top of the grid like so. They can be moved to any section of that grid, no problem at all. It's the bottom of the bin and the grid that really create a little bit of a connection there. So you'll see if I place this on the grid, it doesn't move around, even if you move the drawers in and out. We've also got bins in other sizes, so this is a 1x2, and again, that's the magic of it, the grid system at the bottom of it. So you can place this bin really anywhere you'd like on the actual grid itself, and it can move around no problem. We've got a 2x2 bin. Nothing really changes here. It's just wider, can hold larger parts, no big deal. The other one that's kind of interesting is I've made half-height bins. So this is a half-height bin that is half the height of a 1x1 bin. You can see if two of them are stacked on top of one another, you'll get the same height. I like to use these if you've got common parts, or if you've got a quantity and maybe you've got a certain division based on the colors of the parts or something like that. So I printed those in a different color filament just to really indicate that there are parts underneath that. There's one more bin that I'll save for the end of the video. It's a really cool bin that I think is useful for printed parts. Nothing too special, but stick around for the end and we'll look at that. Now let's talk about printing Brickfinity. So I have two printers. I have a Neptune 4 Max and I have a Bamboo Lab P1S. I use the Neptune 4 Max to print the grids in very large sizes because it can actually print like a 5x5 grid all at once, which is really nice. But if you're just buying one 3D printer, you can get away with just having like a Bamboo Lab A1. It'll print all of the grids and bins that you'd like. It might take you a little bit more time to print all of those, but it shouldn't really be that big of an issue. You don't need to have a large format printer. You only need to have one 3D printer. All of the files for printing this are completely free. They are all available on Printables. I'll link them in the description below. I've also made the source files, which are using a tool called Onshape. Those source files are all completely available as well. You can edit them on the web. You can kind of create bins of different sizes if you'd like, and kind of tweak them as you'd like. So you should be able to find bins that work for any application that you need, but that is all completely free. Okay, so we've talked about the actual 3D printing. We've talked about the system itself. I'm going to cover a couple of things that you should be aware of because it's not a perfect system. It's the best system I've ever come across, and I'm really happy using it, but there are some things you should be aware of. First of all, 3D printing takes time. It is going to take you days, weeks, maybe even months to print all of the bins needed to actually fill up a drawer. So it takes quite a bit of time, and then it is not really the most cost efficient thing. So 3D printing, the filament can add up pretty quick. In my printing experience, I was using between 2 to 3 rolls of filament to fill up a single drawer. So that can add up, and it's a cost that you should kind of be aware of. I think that cost is worth it. It's worth it to actually maximize the space within these drawers. It's worth it to have everything organized for me. So I really like that, but something to be aware of is the cost. And then there are 2 problems with the actual Ikea ALEX. We've covered the drawers. They don't extend all the way. It's super annoying. You can print larger bins to maybe extend into the rear of the bin if you don't want to modify the drawers yourself. I've modified the drawers. I like that system. I don't mind the trade-offs in terms of needing to be more careful with the drawers and how I use them. I think it's well worth it to actually be able to move the drawers entirely out, but it's really up to you. And then the second, and this is more minor, but the lower 3 drawers are a little bit taller than the upper 3 drawers in the Ikea ALEX. I have intentionally set the Brickfinity system to use the same height. You can modify it if you'd like, but I've set it to use the same height for all the drawers no matter what, because I wanted to be able to move bins from one drawer to another and not have to worry about 2 separate sets of heights and things not really being flexible in that way. So Brickfinity is all the same height. That is a small drawback of these drawers. I really do wish they were all the same height, but not a huge deal at the end of the day. Before we get to this last special bin, I would love to hear from you all in the comments. How do you sort your Lego? Is the Brickfinity system interesting to you? I feel like for us in the hobby, Lego sorting is an eternal challenge, so would love to just hear from you in the comments on what you think of this system and how you might do things differently. So this last bin, pretty simple. It's just a bin with dividers. Nothing crazy fancy about this. It's a 2x3 bin, but on the front, you'll see that it's actually got 15 unique dividers. This is a half height bin. I really like using this for things like printed elements, or if I'm storing minifigure utensils or things like that. So anything that's got a consistent category, but has maybe a small quantity and a ton of different unique elements, I like using this kind of bin for that. This also has a generator for it in Onshape that I've made available for free. So you could actually create a larger bin with more dividers or a smaller bin with fewer dividers and kind of mess around at your leisure. And that's it. Thanks for hanging out at the Brickyard, and I'll catch you on the next one.